Or PTSD, formerly known as shell shock, happens by experiencing or witnessing traumatic events. PTSD is diagnosed after a person experiences symptoms for at least a month following a traumatic event. Some symptoms may include re-experiencing the trauma through intrusive, distressing recollections of the event, emotional numbness, and avoidance of people, places, or things. Difficulty sleeping, concentrating, and/or easily irritated. On the positive side, PTSD is treatable through various methods such as cognitive therapy, prolonged exposure therapy, stress inoculation training, and antipsychotics, which reduce or increase the effects of neurotransmitters in the brain to regulate levels. So,
today we've actually brought in a guest speaker, Mr. Mike Gonzalez, if you'll please step up, sir. Mike Gonzalez is a retired Chief Warrant Officer 3 from the United States Army. He now is the Director of Outreach at San Antonio College here at the Victory Center. He himself openly explains that he is a survivor from PTSD. Mike, the floor is yours, sir.
3 months after September 11th, 2001, the phone rang. You're leaving. We would load into a military aircraft known as a C-130 late at night, landing into Afghanistan, Kandahar, not knowing what to expect. We were called to defend and do great things for our nation.
the bigger percentage at nearly 50% of PTSD patients are military personnel, and this is due to wartime.
After Afghanistan, I came home shell-shocked. The doctor said it was normal, but it's been 3 months now, and I still feel like I'm stuck in the battlefield. I feel immobilized. I really can't get home. My reality stays in Afghanistan. That's the only home I know now. It's difficult for me to sleep at night, but when I do, I have nightmares. Nightmares of being back in Afghanistan, being back on the war field. The cold nights of worrying, will a mortar hit me? What will happen? It makes everything very difficult for me to stay calm and be at peace. Mostly the things I've done and the things I've seen to carry out the mission are what haunt me every day. I wake up and I have panic attacks. My heart begins to speed up. I begin to shiver. My wife has tried time and time again to calm me down, to talk to me. But I can't talk to her. She doesn't know what's going on in my head. No one does. I'm alone in this. It frustrates me because all I want to do is be able to get these images out of my head and come back home to my family where I belong. Unfortunately, I can't. I'm stuck there, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I have many mixed emotions. I'm really shameful for the things I've done to carry out the mission. And I live in constant fear every day. The fear that I myself may fall victim, like many of my fellow veterans. Actually, it happens to be the number 22. 22 veterans every day commit suicide. That's one veteran every 65 minutes who takes their own life due to suffering of PTSD.
However, the biggest misconception of PTSD is that all patients are military, when in reality, about 30 to 40% are the general public. About 20% of that are related to vehicle collisions.
What I learned about PTSD, it can happen to anyone. Yeah. It can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime, in any situation.
Are you excited for the party?
I can't wait. Let's go.
Me too. guess.
What's going on?
You know, it's just been tough since the wreck.
Yeah. Well, I actually, I'm doing well. I was diagnosed with PTSD after the wreck also, and, but I've gotten a lot of help through cognitive therapy and yoga and massages, and I have my service dog, and that's really helped me, and, I would really recommend getting some help. There's a lot of different natural approaches, even medicine that you could try. Have you tried that?
I've actually tried most of the treatments actually, and they seem to help me short term, but I just can't seem to get back in a car. I have to walk everywhere that I go, and it's just tough because I have to get places. It's been hard.
Well, do you want to get a coffee and we'll talk about it a little more?
I wouldn't want to make you walk. It's a hot day.
Oh, I can walk with you. We can discuss this a little more.
I wouldn't want to make you do that. I don't know if I'm ready for it. You know, it's hard.
Well, I can see that you've turned to substance abuse. I'm sorry to see that, but there is a lot of help, and I really recommend you get it. There's a lot of retraining of the brain and a lot of things to do, like yoga and positive approaches to this that I recommend you take. And if you ever want to, I'm here for you. We could meet up and see what you want to do.
Well, I'm so sorry, Carly, that it's been so long since we've seen each other. I just really don't leave the house much anymore unless I need to. But I really appreciate you being here for me.
Yeah. Well, anytime you need help, I'm willing to drive over to your place and encourage you with some of the therapies that have helped me.
I'm glad to hear you're doing well.
Okay.
I'll see you.
Not only are PTSD patients from military or car collisions, about 30% of all PTSD patients are sexual assault victims.
I'm a victim of sexual violence, which is manifested into PTSD.
Babe, I'm home after 18 months.
Get away from me, what are you doing? I told you not to touch me. PTSD has ruined my marriage.
Oh, why do you look so sad?
Carly,
Hey, do you want a hug?
no, what are you doing?
Oh, okay.
I'm fine, I don't need to talk to anybody. PTSD has really, really ruined any social interaction I have with anybody. I have nightmares. I can't think straight. I don't know how much longer I can live like this. I just don't know why it had to happen to me.
As you can see, PTSD has affected everybody. It affects anybody. And right now we want to give the floor to Mike. He's going to go into more detail on exactly some of his experiences that he's gone through and his trial and tribulations that he's overcome with PTSD. Mike, please, sir.
It's an honor to be here with you today to not only participate with these fine young men and women, but to also give you more information on what post-traumatic stress disorder is. You know, when I was in the Army, in which I served for 22 years, we trained very hard to prepare for the war zone, to prepare to defend our country, to prepare to win. But no one ever told me or prepared me for what would happen inside of me. And ladies and gentlemen, when I came back home to America after 3 major deployments, I began to see things, I began to hear things. Literally, Mike. I became so paranoid that I had to sleep with the light on for 2 years. My life would spiral out of control. I began to abuse drugs and alcohol. My wife would tell me that is not my husband. My kids would say, where's my father? I began to look underneath every bed, behind every closet. In the shower, I could swear that someone was in there with me. my life had spiraled out of control. My wife filed for divorce 3 years later. My command would say, that is not the Gonzo we know of. Things became dark, like cancer. It would eat me alive. Ladies and gentlemen, post-traumatic stress disorder is real. But it's not just military. One of the statistics that I share is that 90% of Americans will have some type of traumatic event in their lifetime. Have you been sexually molested? Have you seen a natural disaster? Were you in a bad car accident? Or perhaps someone shared with you about their traumatic event. In turn, it has gone into your system and now you have secondary PTSD. It is said that 100,000 men a year are raped in our society. 100,000 men. We know that the numbers are high for the women, but for the men, 100,000 men a year are raped. Over 400,000 U.S. service members today suffer with PTSD. 22 a day commit suicide. That equates to 8,032 service members a year. We pride ourselves with Military City USA, but I often tell people, don't just thank a veteran, you have to help a veteran. Today we're embedded with San Antonio College at the Victory Center. Room 103, 1819 North Main, room 103. I had a young girl that came to my office. She says, Mike, I was sexually molested when I was a kid. Now I'm afraid to be around some type of individual. She said, do you think I have PTSD? I said, you sure do. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that no one heals alone. Just like in the military, just like in your classroom with your professor, we have team members. We're a team. No one heals alone. And what I try to do as the director of outreach is to influence individuals to seek the help that you need. Like this fine scenario that they gave you here. You know, I can't help you if you don't want to get the help. And for me, after 3 years, I finally sought the help that I needed. And it involved an entire team. Doctors, chaplains, pastors, teachers, friends, family members. It took an entire team to bring me where I am today. So after PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, we pride ourselves on PTSD growth. That though I may have gone through some type of traumatic event, that now I have a better sense of my life. That now I can help people who are going through the same thing. That now that my life can be productive, and that my calling in life is to help individuals who are struggling with PTSD. I close today with this small story with you. There was a little boy at a beach, and the water had receded inward dramatically, causing thousands and thousands and thousands of starfish to wash ashore. Well, we all know that if the starfish don't go back into the water, they're going to die. The little boy began to pick them up one by one, throwing them back into the ocean. An older man comes and he says, what are you doing? You can't possibly make a difference. There's too many of them. The little boy reaches back down, grabs another one, throws it into the water, and he says, it made a difference in that one. And so we pride ourselves on the individuals. I may not be able to save the whole world, but I'm after you. I'm after that one. I'm after you. The one back there, the one over here. One person at a time. That together, we can make a difference on the fight on post-traumatic stress disorder. Come see us. God bless you. It's been an honor to present our presentation to you today.
As we come to our conclusion, some of the themes that we saw emerge from our research is that A, PTSD can affect everybody, not just military members. And B, PTSD is a gray area. It's never black and white with PTSD. You never know how someone's gonna be triggered, whether it be the smell of diesel fuel or whether it be the popping of fireworks. So at the end of the day, remember, when you meet with someone with PTSD, know that it affects everyone differently. Everyone handles it differently in every situation possible, whether it be at home or at school. Lastly, we all have a little bit of highlights we'd like to take away from some of our learning. Chelsea?
Not many people know this, but 50% of U.S. individuals have PTSD due from sexual trauma. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will experience this.
I interviewed 2 police officers who were at the 9/11 attacks, and I think the most insightful thing I learned is they both said the way they're coping with it is by helping other people and education. The one gentleman went back to school and got his bachelor's and then his master's, and the other one is set up a training facility where he can teach everybody his tactical skills and where he's not like on the scenes that trigger those things. But it was really interesting to me that he just said it's more, he understands it more as a brain injury and that it can be redirected and rerouted through therapies and through helping and education.
All right, from the kind lady that I interviewed told me about how it was difficult for her to really tell people that she had the diagnosis because people would discard it or say, you know, that everyone feels that way at some point, and people would tell her just to forget about it. And I think it's really important to be understanding and not to be judgmental, and to really show that you are there for them. And you know, like, and even in her workplace, she hears people saying things sometimes, and you really have to be careful about what you're saying because you never know who could be dealing with it. So I think that's very important.
The one thing that I've learned is that PTSD is along the lines of a spectrum, similar to how autism is measured on a spectrum. So a basic breakdown of PTSD would be mild, moderate, severe. And each case is individually diagnosed and placed along that spectrum. And from there, the patient will then proceed to take necessary steps to seek treatment, but only if they're willing to.
My takeaway to give everybody, as you've seen each and every one of my fellow colleagues who have done such an incredible job today, that PTSD is an umbrella. It not only affects military members, but it affects car crash victims. It affects sexual assault victims, military sexual trauma victims. It affects everybody. It affected people on 9/11. Whether you were there, lost a loved one or not, it still affected you in some way, shape, or form. So take that away. It is an umbrella, and it doesn't have any black and white area. Last but not least, if you know anybody suffering from PTSD, we've put up a suicide hotline because so many people take their lives because of this disorder, and it doesn't need to be that way. That's why we brought Mike Gonzalez, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Mike Gonzalez in, because if someone can't call a hotline, he's there with open doors 24 hours a day. He has a bird phone that you can call at any time, and he'll be happy to give you that number. Mike, we do thank you for being here. You look awesome, and thank you for your service to our country and your continued service, Mike. Thank you all very much. We appreciate